A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke. The people had gathered in their thousands, so that they were treading on one another. And Jesus began to speak first of all to his disciples. Be on your guard against the yeast of the Pharisees, that is, their hypocrisy. Everything that is now covered will be uncovered, and everything now hidden will be made clear. For this reason, whatever you have said in the dark will be heard in the daylight, and whatever you have whispered in the hidden places will be proclaimed on the housetops. And to you, my friends, I say, do not be afraid of those who kill the body and after that can do no more. I will tell you whom to fear. Fear him who, after he is killed, has the power to cast into hell. Yes, I tell you, fear him. Can you not buy 5 sparrows for 2 pennies, and yet not one is forgotten in God's sight? Why, every hair on your head has been counted. There is no need to be afraid, for you are worth more than hundreds of sparrows. This seems to be another one of those readings in church where the first half doesn't really seem to relate to the second half, not without undertaking some neat mind judo and thinking about it so deeply that it hurts. The first half of our reading could reasonably and fairly be summarised as, don't be a hypocrite like those ones over there, besides you won't get away with it. The second half, talking about whom we should fear, is most curious. I cannot immediately think of many times in Scripture, or otherwise in fact, where we are positively encouraged to be afraid. We tend to rationalise fear. The desire is strong to explain it away, to mentally train ourselves that it is just silly to be afraid of cockroaches or spiders or clowns or whatever it is that might set your personal panic alarms off. And where that fails, we resort to solutions of avoidance, making life choices to avoid the circumstances we fear, or alternatively, to just pretending the thing of which we are afraid doesn't exist or can't bother us. And these are fine strategies, in and of themselves. After all, if you can find a way to function perfectly well without having to reorganise the entire structure of your mental faculties, then what's the bother? Of course, it doesn't always work, and then we need a little bit of help. But what if, having plucked up the courage, your therapist turned round to you and said to you that you were just plain wrong? Plain wrong to be afraid of spiders when what you should be afraid of are slugs. And then she gave you an explanation that pointed out that slugs care for you more than spiders do, and never mind the big hairy legs, venom, and so on. What? Excuse me, hang on a minute, let's go back a stage. But what about the spiders? And what are you going to do about them? Oh, nothing, comes the reply. It doesn't really work, does it? And that's because we have drawn the assumption, or accepted as a premise, that things that we fear are automatically bad. Now, to be frank and honest with you, I do struggle to see what good slugs themselves actually do, but I'm sure that they have a very important purpose and I don't want to hurt their feelings, so, well, I'm just going to leave the slugs there. But what does it look like to fear something that is also good? The best illustration I can come up with is shamelessly stolen. It has been shamelessly nicked from the mind of a Mr. Charles Staples Lewis in a part from his children's book, The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe. In the book, the children who are the stars of the story meet Mr. and Mrs. Beaver, who are describing the mighty lion Aslan to them. "Is he a man?" asked Lucy. "Aslan a man?" said Mr. Beaver sternly. "Certainly not, I tell you. He is the king of the wood and the son of the great emperor beyond the sea. Don't you know who is the king of the beasts? Aslan is a lion, the great lion." "Ooh," said Susan, "I thought he was a man. Is he quite safe? I shall feel rather nervous about meeting a lion." "And that you will, dearie, and no mistake," said Mr. Beaver. "But if there's anyone who can appear before Aslan without their knees knocking, they're just braver than most, or just plain silly." So then he isn't safe," said Lucy. "Safe?" said Mr. Beaver. "Don't you hear what we're telling you? Who said anything about safe? Of course he isn't safe. But he's good. He's the king, I tell you." Now, Aslan in the book serves as an allegory of Jesus, and Jesus, like Aslan, is not safe. God is not safe. Like Icarus, if we fail to approach God in the right way, we too can end up falling to earth with a bump. But he is good, and he cares deeply about each and every one of us, more than hundreds of sparrows, as we heard today. Our task is to learn to approach him in the right way, without, dare I say it, any hypocrisy or deceit in our hearts and how we approach our lives. And in case you missed it, that means that we have just solved the puzzle, for it turns out that the second half of the reading did relate to the first half after all.